right? Everyone agreed? You lend money. You might think the bank wants interest, but what do they want? What's the first thing they want? Their money back, because the $10,000 you borrow is 10,000 times, or 10 times greater than the 1,000 in interest, and that's with a really high interest rate. You know, so. All right. So we got one last thing. Right, with GDP, we talked about things that aren't included in GDP. With the unemployment rate, we talked about various issues with the unemployment rate. And not surprisingly then, price indexes are biased for a number of reasons. So I don't know, what was the last letter I had? What was the Fisher equation letter? I. So let's just do J real quickly. This is an easy, probably be a true-false question sometime during the semester, either on the test two or on the final about this, maybe both. But it's also something that's just logical. Once I say it, you'll go, yeah, of course. New goods. Right, you don't have a 1985 price for a cell phone to compare it to, right? Right, our CPI is based in 1985. So new goods that are introduced in the price indexes that we have become slightly biased. Changes in the quality of goods. To stick with the cell phone example, would you rather have when you get a cell phone, is a 2024 cell phone the same thing as a 2004 cell phone? When did the first iPhone come out? We're getting close to that not being a good example anymore in here. Did it come out in 2005, 2006? So, certainly, if you look at the 2024 laptop compared to 2004 laptop, what's true? Any gamers here? How many gamers would like to play with a 2004 computer? You probably couldn't win at all, could you? Now that might tell you something, right? Gaming is like what sport? Golf. If you get a golf ball that goes further, or a golf club that hits the ball further, maybe it can even make up for your bad swing and your bad at, hitting it off. But right, your equipment can make it, can change whether you can win or not. You probably sometimes lose to somebody in gaming because they have a better computer. Less lag, less, etc. So the quality changes. Now quality can go both ways. Right? When your great-grandparent pulled into a then service station, we now call them gas stations, to get gasoline, they got 10 gallons of gasoline, and what else? Somebody to pump it for them, somebody to clean the windshield so you didn't have all these guys on street corners, and somebody to check the oil. Now sometimes, like any service thing, sometimes you get some not very with it minimum wage worker checking your oil and using the same rag to clean your windshield or something like that. But in general, you've got more service with it. So service can go both ways. Anybody from New Jersey? I think it's illegal to pump your own gas in New Jersey. I think that's the only state left. So when you buy a gallon of gas, or when you buy 10 gallons of gas, you've got something different in those states. So quality can go in both directions, but I think more often quality improves. Certainly in technology goods, quality improves. And then the last biases. The last bias is measuring price. How many of you have ever bought a car? What did you pay for the car? Any of you know what you paid for the car? Well, if you had a trade-in, you have no idea what you paid for the car, right? Because you have no idea whether they gave you what you should have got for your trade-in or not. All right. Right? Apparently that's the deal with forklifts. No forklifts are ever sold at list price. But there are other things too, right? How many people are a traditional, stereotypical Southerner who enjoys a good summer roadside stand watermelon, right? Can the Department of Commerce get that price? Maybe, but it'd be pretty expensive. They actually have tried, they try to improve this all the time, but there are things that you and I, the price we pay just, and it's gotta be new goods, because we're talking about new goods here, so it's not that, that they can't figure out how much you paid for, you paid your friend for something that they already own. But, there are things that are, anybody brave enough to eat shrimp from the roadside guys?
Yeah.
Well,
it's like fresh shrimp, like they sell.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, but it does bother some people. But yeah, can they get that price? Maybe, maybe not. So, they've got to determine the actual price to be able to calculate a price index. So all these things, cumulatively, maybe the CPI measures inflation. I think I said this in class when we were talking the other day. Maybe the CPI, if you have a CPI inflation of 2%, maybe it's actually about 0. But so maybe there's a 2% bias. But again, potentially there are biases on both sides. So potentially, that 2% number can change over time. Depends on how good, with the internet, maybe they're able to get better price data. And again, as I said, they have made, they had a big press release a decade or so back about getting certain sale prices. If you're like me, I like a variety in the kind of potato chips that I eat. And one way to get variety in the kind of chips I eat is to buy whichever one Carly's has on half-price sale, right? Do they capture that? I don't know. Because it's not a matter of I consume Doritos, and sometimes they're half off and sometimes they're more expensive. I consume whatever is half off. So there are biases in price indices, and these are, ma'am, these are nice things that anyone can answer a true-false question about, right? So this is the type of easy thing that doesn't involve any arithmetic or any math that can help you get through this class. All right. So we are ready to go to the data. How many people got an email from me with the sheet attached? So it did go out, it did go through. You won't really need it if you're here, but I just wanted everyone to have it. And I think I'm going to sneak the data up. So tell me when you can't see things over here. I like to have the data up there when we look at it, even though everybody has a copy. Can you see all of those?
I mean, I got the paper in front of me.
Right, can you see all of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see all of them? All right, so I think that's all the data. I want to make sure you can see it because I'm gonna put checks by these things when we use them if I stay up to date on it. So, one, how large is the labor force? The labor force equals what? The employed plus the unemployed. So that means it equals 135 million plus 5 million. Or 140 million. Everyone agree? Everyone agree? Everybody think they can do that one? How many people think they can do that without a calculator? Okay. What's the unemployment rate? The unemployed divided by the labor force. So it equals 5 million divided by 140 million, or 5 divided by 140. $140 into 5. 420, 80, 5, 700, 100. Where does 100 go? 7, maybe? 980, 20. So close enough there. So it equals 0.036 or 3.6%. Everybody see how to do that? How many people looked at the old test? Looked at that on the old test? I usually come up with even easier numbers. I just sort of did them on the 3.67%. That's about what we're at. The labor force is in the 130 to 150 million range, so those numbers are somewhat realistic. Labor force participation rate equals labor force divided by population 16 plus. So it equals 140 million divided by 200 million. (14/20), which equals 7/10, which equals 0.7, which equals 70%. Everyone agree with that? Everyone think they could have calculated that themselves without my help? Without a calculator even? You do get to use a calculator, I guess, on the test, a simple one. And by the way, after all my big thing, and that way you can read it, I keep forgetting to do this. So what do we use? We've used the employed, we've used the unemployed. We really use these each several times, and we've used population 16 plus. Okay, everybody agree? With some luck, I'll put all 3 of those on your test, and maybe a couple of them on the final, and you can get 5% of your grade by getting those correct. That's a give away 5%. So if you're lucky, we'll see. Sometimes I look, sometimes when I'm writing them, that's too easy, I can only put 2 of them on there. So maybe between 3 and 5% of your grade, let's say, but I'm gonna put at least 3 on there. I'm gonna have questions about these. They're easy, but they demonstrate that you were in class and learned a little bit about what's going on. If there are only 2 goods, peanut butter and jelly, what is nominal GDP in 2009 and 2020? So how do you calculate that? Oh, it's 4. So, what does GDP equal? Right, everyone agrees it equals that? Everybody remember from your notes it equals that? So what is N in our case? 2. 2 goods. And so it equals P1 times Q1 plus P2 times Q2. You could put a subscript in there for time because we've got 2 different time periods, but I don't want to make it more complicated for you than it already is. So, let's do 2009 and 2021, okay? So, P 2009, P1 2009 times Q1 2009 plus P2 2009 Q2 2009. What is that? Well, what's the first good? I don't really care which one you want it to be. What's the first good? Peanut butter or jelly? Peanut butter. What's the price of peanut butter in 2009? All right, to make it even simpler, I picked things that we could abbreviate without the same letters being involved. So what's the price of peanut butter in 2009? $2? What's the quantity of peanut butter consumed in 2009? 10 whatever, right? 10 tons? Who knows? Plus, what's the price of jelly in 2009? $1. And what's the quantity of jelly in 2009? Jelly consumed in 2009, 5. So, $2 times 10 is what? $20. Plus, $1 times 5 is $5. And 20 plus 25 is $25. I'm going to put 2009 here next to it, because I'm going to erase all the rest of it, but I want to keep at the bottom what we've calculated. Okay, what about the same thing for 2021? Let's just do the price of peanut butter 21 times the quantity of peanut butter 21 plus the price of jelly 21 times the quantity of jelly 21. Right? Same thing, all I did was change the jellies and I didn't write it out, the 2000s out, trying to make it more compact because I don't have a lot of space there. So what's the price of peanut butter in 2021? $3? What's the quantity of peanut butter in 2021? 12. Plus, what's the price of jelly in 2021? $2. And what's the quantity of jelly in 2021? 6. So 3 times 12 is 36. 2 times 6 is $12. So we get 2021, our GDP is $48. Now, I'm going to keep those numbers there because we're going to need them. In the next step. So, and what is part of the purpose of this? What's part of me asking you to do this on the test? What am I driving at? Anybody? That complicated thing with the summation sign? It's just easy, right? You know what it is now, as opposed to, you probably didn't have much of a clue. And even me saying sum of I equals 1 to 4 xi, writing it out, that still is not quite the same as calculating it for GDP. You know what that is. You know in principle, what's the difference between that and calculating GDP and the actual GDP of the US? N isn't 2, it's like 8 million, or however many goods there are, right? So you calculate up all, and that's why they do a basket of goods to calculate it, but yeah, you just multiply all these things, quantities times price, and add them up. If you can do 2, can you do 3? If you can do 3, can you do 8 million? Yeah. Might take some time, might be time for only one question on the test. And then you could all make arithmetic errors, and I could give everybody a 0 probably, but, you know, you get at it. So this is nominal GDP 2029 and nominal GDP 2021. All right, so what's the next question? There are only 2 goods, peanut butter and jelly. What is the price index in 2021 in terms of 2029? So, how do we calculate a price index? So we've got this, right? In your notes someplace you have this. If we translated it, we would get, and if we translated it into what we have, it'd be sum I equals 1 to 2 P 2000, well, let's just say P 2021 I Q 2021 I over I equals 1 to 2 P, what is it, 09 I Q 21 I, or I equals 1 to 2 P 21 I Q 09 I P 09 I Q 09 I. So right, so this 1 and 0, which we called the current and the base year, well, we made the current year 2021 and the base year 09, right? Because that's the years we're actually dealing with. Now, anybody notice anything that's going to make your life easier in this? Anybody see anything that's going to make this a much easier story? The Q's do not cancel out, because if you cancel them out, then you just have the ratio of the actually you're multiplying and then dividing, so you can't cancel the Q's out, unfortunately.
We already found the top part.
Well, yeah, this is just nominal GDP in 21, right there. So this is 48, and guess what this is? Guess what the bottom over here is? Nominal GDP in 09. So we've already got the top here and the bottom here. And again, look what we're doing. This is, we're taking today's prices times today's quantity and dividing them through by the old prices times today's quantity. So this is taking 2021 as the basket. This is just taking 2009 as the basket. You've got to keep the goods constant and let the prices change to calculate a price index. And then you can see why all those biases come in, right? Because new goods, goods that didn't exist in 2009, they can't be in there. All right, so, even if you say, well, but what about when we're doing the basket in 21? Well, the price for the good in 09 that doesn't exist in 2021. You can't go back and get a price for a good that, well, some economists try to get what they call shadow prices, but you can't get an actual price. So, what do we need? What do we need here? We need, this one is the price, price of peanut butter 09 times the quantity of peanut butter 21 plus the price of jelly 09 times the quantity of jelly 21, right? We haven't calculated that right yet. Because until you're doing price indexes, it doesn't make sense to calculate it, right? Doesn't mean anything except that it allows you to get a price index. And so, what's the price of peanut butter in 09? Use that one too, by the way. Price of peanut butter in 09? Actually, let's take a step back, okay? I should have done this at the beginning. This is the way you guys were taught, right? What happened to the price of jelly between 09 and 2021? What happened to it? It doubled. It went up by 100%, right? What happened to the price of peanut butter between 09 and 09 and 21? It's right above it. What happened to the price of peanut butter? It went up by $1, went up by 50%. So the price of jelly went up by 100%, the price of peanut butter went up by 50%. Where had our answer better be? How much did prices in our peanut butter and jelly economy go up? Well, if one went up 50% and the other went up 100%, where does the answer have to be? Anyone? It's got to be between 50% and 100%, right? Got to be someplace in between there. And in fact, since we consume more peanut butter than we do jelly, probably closer to the 50%. Probably closer to peanut butter than it is to jelly. So, what's the price of peanut butter in 09? $2. How much peanut butter is consumed in 21? Anyone? 12? What's the price of jelly in 09? Don't glaze over. What's the price of jelly in 09? All you have to do is read it off the sheet or get it off the board. $1? And what's the quantity of jelly consumed in 2021? 6. So you just 24 plus 6, $24 plus $6 equals $30, and you put $30 here. So we got $48 and $30. And what do we have to do for this one? What do we need for the other one? We need, what's the top? So we need the price of peanut butter in 21 times the quantity of peanut butter in 09 plus the price of jelly in 21 times the quantity of jelly in 09. Right? What's the price of peanut butter in 21? Price of peanut butter in 01 is $3. What's the quantity of peanut butter in 09? 10 units. Plus, what's the price of jelly in 2021? $2. What's the quantity of jelly in 09? 5. So, we still have plus sign in between. So, 3 times 10 is $30. Plus 2 times 5 is $10. So that equals $40. So over here we can put $40. Now, as it turns out, you can cancel out the dollars. The dollars cancel out. So price indexes are what are called pure numbers. They're unitless. And then we can reduce this fraction. What can you divide 30 and 48 by? Because both divide them both by 2, because they're even numbers. What else can you divide them by? 6. If you divide it by 6, 48 divided by 6 equals what? 8. 30 divided by 6 equals 5. And curiously enough, you can divide both these numbers by what? 40 and 25 are divided by 5. And that equals 40 divided by 5 is 8. And 25 divided by 5 is 5. So we get 8/5 for both. 8 divided by 5, or 5 divided by 8, I'm sorry. No, 8 divided by 5. 1.6. So 1.6. And there's one more thing we have to do. What's that 1.6? What has to happen? What did I leave out up here? Times 100. Times 100. So we got to multiply it times 100. Times 100. And our price index is 160. Which says prices between 2009 and 2021 in our economy went up how much? 60%. Started at 100, went up, right? Because if you just divided 25 by itself, or you divide, well, this would be 25 divided by itself here, 48 divided by itself, you'd get 1 times 100, and you start off with 100, right? If you divide the base year by itself, you get 1 times 100, or 100. So prices went up 60%, closer to the 50% of peanut butter, because we're consuming more peanut butter than jelly. I contrived this, okay? These don't have to be equal. They are only equal because I made an example that will make them equal. If I ask this to you on the test, I will say, use the base year or the current year, or use 2021 or whatever I make the base year, to 2009, so that we can all get to the same answer. So, all right, that's the hardest of these. But this probably was completely Greek to you when I wrote it down. Maybe it's slightly less confusing now, right? The top of this is just nominal GDP, and this other one is this artificial thing where we take the goods today and multiply them by the price of some other year. number 6. Oh, and we also use this one several times. Six is, what is 2020 real GDP in terms of 2000 prices? So how do you calculate real GDP? Nominal GDP divided by a price index times 100. What's our nominal GDP? What do we want here? We want nominal GDP in 2020. We want the price index in 2020 and 2000 prices. Or comparison between 2000 prices and 2020 prices. So, what is the price? What's nominal GDP in 2020? Anybody? Nominal GDP in 2020? Nobody? 20 trillion. What's the price index in 2020 in terms of 2020 prices? Or not 2020. 2020 in terms of 2000 prices or 2000 base year? Anybody? 125 times 100. Why did I use 2020 as my nominal GDP? Or what year couldn't I use as my nominal GDP? What year don't I want to use as my nominal GDP? Anybody know? 2021. Why don't I want to use 2021?
Because everything was messed up that year.
No, because we just calculated 2021. I don't want you to make an arithmetic mistake in question 5 and then miss question 6 because of it. I mean, I guess that can sort of happen if you can't calculate the labor force properly because you need the labor force and the unemployment rate and labor force participation rate. But I try to make these questions as uh, 125 goes into, you guys are new math guys, you should be able to know that one easily. What? How many times does 125 go into?
What's
Goes in 6. How do you know it's 6? How should you know from your high school and elementary school arithmetic what the answer is there? You're supposed to estimate these answers. How many people know how many times 250 goes into 750? Well, let's see, 250 plus 250 is 500 plus 250 is 750, so how many times does it go in? 3. But we don't have 250, we have 125, but 125 is what? Twice, well, 250 is twice 125, so you should know that it then goes in twice the 3 or 6. Right, that's what they were trying to teach you. So we get 1.6. 1.6, is that right? Times 100 gives us what?
160.
Gives us $16 trillion. Oh, you know what? I did put it in the wrong. It's actually 0.16. I took my decimal up at the wrong place. It's 0.16. And does that make sense? All right, prices have gone up, so the real GDP is somewhat less than the nominal GDP. That's the way it's usually going to be. Right, if nominal GDP right now is 27 trillion, real GDP might be 25 or 24, depending upon how far back in time you take the price index. What's real GDP growth? YT plus 1 minus YT divided by YT, which in our case equals GDP 2020 minus GDP 19 divided by GDP 19, which equals what? What's GDP in 20? 20 trillion. What's GDP in 19? I think it's 19 trillion in 19, yes. 19 trillion in 2019 divided by 19 trillion. So it's 1 divided by 19. 19 goes into 1. 0. What? 5. 95. 5. 2. 38. 6. So it equals about 0.053 or 5.3%. This is a coming out of COVID number. When the economy has been shut down, that's a really high growth rate. 2 or 3% is about what you can expect to get. What's the inflation rate from 2000 to 2020? Well, what's our price index? $25, so prices increased by 25% over 20 years, so it had to be a little over 1% per year. You can actually calculate that, but I'm going to save that for your finance classes if you take them. Right? It's some number to the 20th power. So we don't want to deal with that too much, but it's about, so the answer to 8, so 25% over, what is it, 20 years? So slightly over 1% a year. And then the last one is what's per capita GDP. We use this one and this one. Per capita GDP, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have done this last one, I threw it on. What's per capita GDP in 2020? So it's 20 trillion. Divided by 330 million. Let's see. Hundreds, thousands, millions, hundred thousands, millions. Gotta stick 3 more on there. Hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. So we get rid of 3 of these, and 2 of those, and 2 of those, and that 1. So we have 20. We got 2, 0, 0, 0. 0, 0, 0, 2 million divided by 33. What do we get? 4, 5, 6, 7. 7's too many. Let's try 6, 18, 98, 2. 0, 206, 198, so it looks like this is a nice, easy, repeating number. So we get $60,660.06. Or, yeah, 6 cents. A number that makes much more sense to us than $20 trillion, right? So what should that tell you? If that number is correct.
Does average income?
Average net worth is like 60,000.
Not net worth, average income. That you should, now, it's gonna be dragged up by people who make billions of dollars a year. So you might look at the median. But you should ask yourself, if you get out of here, should I be making 20,000? Well, maybe if you're a nurse working for Doctors Without Borders, maybe you choose to do, you can choose to, you don't have to be about money. But you should ask yourself, am I happy with what I'm doing? Do I need to change? Do I need to move to something else but it gives you a sense of what the economy is. All right, how many people think they can answer most of those questions? Okay, like organic chemistry. Yes, I'm talking to each of you. You need to be able to calculate the unemployment rate, even if you have to miss the question on calculating the price index, okay? You need to be able to calculate the unemployment rate, labor force participation rate, nominal GDP in the too-good economy, calculate real GDP from nominal GDP. There are a lot of easy questions in here. So even if I put one of the hard ones on there, since you're such a smart class, I want to see exactly how smart you are. Don't, all right, see you guys.